Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on the Broadband Hui, and thank you for always rolling with the changes that we have going on here. I just had a little bit of a different introduction to the Broadband Hui just to accommodate the recording for our PEG stations and the videos that are constantly rebroadcasted on the stations. So thank you, everybody, for your willingness to be helpful on waiting on that. But I am Shola Kahiapo-Trevino, and I am the Digital Equity Specialist here for the County of Hawaii. And I get to have our co-host today with Carissy. Want to introduce yourself?
Yes, aloha. I'm trying to figure out my video here. Aloha kakayaka, everyone. Mahalo for joining. Do you hear me okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Yep.
And yep, look forward to there we go. Here I am. Look forward to our presentation today to give us all more knowledge about what options we have for our communities and our organizations and making sure that everyone is able to experience the incredible opportunities that the technology, the internet, and AI has to offer.
Thanks, Chrissy. I have dropped the agenda for today in the chat. And just as another for your information, all the information that I had previously listed on the bottom of the agenda, we've been migrating it over to our website that we have. So if you go to the Broadband Hui, there's a hyperlink on there. You're able to access our website that we have. And I know that we had to restart our listserv. So if you know anyone else who's been originally on the listserv that is not on it anymore, if you click on the Broadband Hui sign up hyperlink as well, you are able to directly add yourself onto the listserv. So yeah, that's all of my housekeepings I got right now. Our agenda is pretty packed today. We have some really awesome things that we want to share with you. I'm going to start with our mana'o for today, just to kind of ground us on what we got going on. And then we'll have some information shared about the Spectrum grant. There's going to be some BEAD updates, and then Chung is going to give an update on the different policies and bills going on. And then we're going to jump into the start of our new series right now, which is exploring internet connectivity in our islands. The intention behind that is for us to kind of learn about all the different technologies and opportunities that we have, as well as bringing in the case studies of individuals or organizations who utilize those resources. So yeah, thank you for everyone for joining, and let me share my screen. So today's mana'o, it is actually just one word, but I learned this word earlier in the week, and I thought that it was a very, very fitting word to share. And the word or mana'o of the day is mikole, and that means persevering, continuing at a task little by little, or working bit by bit. There's like lots of small things that make up the bigger picture, and all components of it is really, really important for the end goals. So thought I would share that with you folks. Hopefully that is a little striking to folks, but yeah, that is our mana'o today. So Rebecca, if you are on and available, if you would like to share about the current grant that Spectrum has going on. I've also linked the information on the agenda as well. But yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
Thanks, Shola. Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Lieberman. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Spectrum in Hawaii. I'm based on Oahu, for those that I don't know, but I think I know most of you here. But Shola invited me to just share a little bit more information about the Spectrum Digital Education Grant Program. This is a wonderful grant that we do. It's a nationwide program, but we've had many winners in the past in Hawaii. And this is a grant that supports nonprofits who are doing work in digital skills training, professional advancement, technology, and and technology and education spaces. So this is a great opportunity for nonprofits that have existing digital equity or digital literacy programs to apply and expand their programs. Some previous winners in Hawaii include Mapunawai, Tech Savvy Teens, the Waipahu Community School for Adults, Project Hawaii, the Whitmore Economic Development Group. So we've had over a dozen winners in Hawaii since I've been with Charter. And I believe grants are up to $50,000. And Shola said she shared the link, but I can also put it in the chat. If anyone has any questions about the program, I'll also put my email. You can reach out to me directly, but the application portal is open. So it opened on Monday, and you have until March 28th to submit your applications. They're reviewed in April, and then the awards will be announced in June. So typically, most years, these grants are the application window is open in June. So we opened it a little bit earlier this year. But I would love to see great representation for Hawaii. If you end up applying, please let me know so I can help advocate for you. I'm not part of the decision-making team, but I certainly can help push for more grants and more funding coming to Hawaii because I know how important that is right now. So I'll put the link in the chat, and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them now.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca. Any questions? No questions? Amazing. Awesome. Thank you.
This is Chrissy.
Hi.
Just real quick, Rebecca. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to look at it yet, but could you just talk about just quick bullet points on the eligible and ineligible projects? Would that be okay? And maybe if there's any ineligibility that is important to know, out the gate. Thank you.
Sure. You have to be a 501c3 to apply for the grant. And the biggest, I would say, hurdle that nonprofits need to get past is that it needs to be an existing program. So you can't use this funding to create a new program. It needs to be an existing project related to digital or technology training and skills. That's typically what it is. And from there, it can be pretty broad. And the types of projects that have been accepted have varied over the years, but it's really the most important tie is the connectivity to something digital, whether for students or for kapuna or for professional training. That's typically the most important part. So I don't know explicitly what projects are ineligible, but I would say that absolutely new programs are ineligible. That's always been an issue in the past.
Great. Mahalo.
And I just put the link in the chat, and I can put my email as well if anyone has any questions or wants to talk to me about the grant.
And entities have to be nonprofit, listed as nonprofits as well. Awesome. All right, if there's no more questions, thank you, Rebecca, for sharing. All other information will also be on our website if folks would like to check it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will move on to the UH team if they have any current updates on anything BEAD related, BEAD funding, and projects happening.
Thanks, Shola.
Hi.
Good to see you guys. So with very short update, which is that our RFP, for the build out and the deployment of the infrastructure part of the BEAD program it's currently under review. We have received responses and we're going back and forth with those. We aren't able to share much more than that about that, but we are moving forward with this part despite all of the uncertainty and kind of, things that come out daily on the federal news scale. But basically, until we receive other guidance or notification from NTIA that we need to stop work, we are moving forward. And that also means that we're going to be getting ready our final proposal, which it will ultimately include who the RFP awardee is and the build out plan. So all of that will coalesce together. And right now the timeline is still looking towards June-ish. And that's just about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Does anyone have any questions? concerns? Dan, how's it going?
Oh, good, thank you. It wouldn't be normal if I didn't have any questions. Um, so uh, appreciate the update there, Sarah. Are are the at the end of the day are we going to be 100% connected in Hawaii based on the RFPs?
The mandate of the program is that yes, everybody has to be able to access. So the RFP respondent has to figure out a way to make that happen within the amount of money that we have.
And is that progressing okay? I mean, I was looking at the schedule. It says you've I guess you've defined the all the final locations.
Um, so the final location, or at least the final locations that made it through the whole challenge process, that is clear. But like say there's a location in there that's gonna cost $1 billion to build to, it might end up having a different type of technology for it. Some of that stuff, I don't have details as of yet, because we're still going back and forth with, what can we cover with the amount of funds that we have and what will use alternative technologies, if any.
Yeah, well, there is some discussion, for example, of allowing more Starlink solutions.
Yeah, there's discussion on it, but there hasn't been a call for sure either way yet. But we
You
are
know,
waiting for additional guidance.
yeah, I think it would be useful to have a kind of a breakdown by by county, since the bids are by county about how many well how many BSLs, how many are um, covered, and how many are the high cost areas, and how many are covered by existing programs, right, like RDOF and some of the others, so that we get an overall picture. And and in the big picture is, can we aspire to for Hawaii to be the first totally connected state in the union?
I mean, according to Hawaiian Tel, we should all be 100% connected, right, by 2027.
No, it says enabled, so you can ask them what enabled what enabled means. Yeah, I mean, if it means that every location has all they need is the final drop to get to the house, that's one thing. But um, anyway, yeah, I mean, I think Hawaii should aspire to be, if it's not the first to get connected. Of course, there may be states that are already connected, like Rhode Island and Delaware, and where they don't really have much territory, but would be a worthwhile goal to aspire to get to be first. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Always a pleasure to hear from you. If there's no other questions, I can move on to Chung and he can give us some updates on any of the bills currently in legislative session right now.
Thanks, Shola. So after all the introductions of bills and hearings and considerations, we have one bill that crossed over. So HB 934 is a House bill, and it crossed over to the Senate. So now the Senate will have the subject matter committee hear it, and then the money committee hear it, and then it'll cross back over. We are anticipating not HB 934 to go through quite a bit of amendment added, right? So look out for that. As much as possible, we want to be given a heads up, but sometimes we just don't know until it passes out of the committee when the changes are announced. So we're anticipating a lot of changes to be done to HB 934. And so, which means that it's almost a guarantee that it'll go into conference. So anytime there's a change to a measure that crosses over and then it goes back to the originating house, it triggers a conference, right? So in most cases, the bills will go into conference, but this one is almost guaranteed to go into conference. So we have been talking to the original introducer, Representative Iligan, and have really had good conversations. And then there was also a question, right, a couple of weeks ago about the amendment that's being done. And so we've been having very good conversations. We haven't worked very closely with Senator Decoy, but I do believe the LG's office is in touch with them, with her office. So we're working through the process. So that's the only bill that we're tracking at this point. We do have a resolution that just got on our radar. It doesn't affect too much of the work that we do. It may, but it's to be seen. But it's Senate Concurrent Resolution 35. So we're expecting also a House Concurrent Resolution, a companion version of it. And it's to consider and make recommendation to the next legislative session, recommendations on creating a tech hub for health. And HTDC is the lead agency on this, but it does call out several other agencies, including HBDEO, to work with them to come up with a recommendation to the legislature for next session. So those two are on our radars right now, and still a lot more work to do. We're only, I would say maybe a third way through, if that, or quarter way through the legislature. So we still got the two committees and the conference that we got to get through. Any questions?
There was one question in the chat, and the question is, what is the benefit of transferring HBDEO from DBED to DAGS?
It's to for better alignment for tech and IT. So one of the things that's going to happen is as a result of BEAD, there will be infrastructure assets that state will at least be have part ownership of and management responsibilities. So there will be that. And so kind of the future things that are coming online that we have to manage, and it aligns better with DAGs. So that's the thought anyway, and the motivation to move from DBED to DAGs.
Awesome.
Yes,
Thank
Chrissy.
you.
Chrissy had a question.
Yeah, so first, mahalo Chang for, I watched the oral testimony that you provided, and also Dan and Sean. And so I like that you had confirmed your concern of the potential impact that the inclusion that Charter had asked for, the amendment that added on to the support of broadband projects, and then excluding broadband infrastructure for retail service, and not knowing really what the definition of retail service is. I know that Representative Jenna, I'm going to use her first name because I can never pronounce her last name. I always get it wrong, but I know that she had asked if you would work with the community and with Charter to see if there was some way to find a way to either take out that amendment or come up with some kind of language that would satisfy, all the stakeholders involved. Because I think in her words, there's enough money on the BEAD side that we already know is going towards broadband infrastructure. So creating limitations on monies that could go towards smaller broadband projects that really are primarily for digital equity initiatives. Is I know that was your concern. So this is now my question. I was curious if you were able to have any discussions with community and with charter, those that are involved. And I think you mentioned you hadn't talked to Senator DeCoy's office or to her. So just wondering if there's something that you could share on that or your thoughts, because yeah, I was very happy that you were. I know you said personally that you felt like that there was potentially some negative impact that that you yourself wouldn't be happy with as well.
Yeah, thanks, Christy, for the comments and the question. So yes, I did not speak, but I had a email back and forth with Rebecca from Charter. And as far as our work is concerned for digital equity, is not going to impact, for example, free Wi-Fi for communities, right? But I'm just gonna make just kind of a personal comment. What Dan and Sean had provided testimonies for, as far as that anti-competitive portion, probably. But I don't know if it's very unlikely that HBDO will take a position on that. We can certainly help with maybe coming up with a language or recommendation. But so what you have to realize too that is for us, the statute does say that HBDO is responsible for making sure that there's a competitive rate, affordable rate for connectivity. Because right now we feel that in the market there is, and there are various programs to make it more affordable. So just from that perspective, and also that it's not going to affect the digital equity work, the deployment of free Wi-Fi in like CAIs. We're not going to take a position on that from the department perspective. But we're certainly going to help you with crafting a language that is more acceptable. Because, yeah, we don't want to get into a situation like we did last year with that grant program, where the governor has to consider a veto. So, yeah, so I'll continue to, so I'm available and I'll work with Dan and the policy team for Hui and as well as Sean to see what we can do. But from a department perspective, that's the position that we're going to take. Thanks, Christine.
Great, mahalo, Chang. Thanks for that.
For the sake of time, if anyone else has any more questions, I have the information to contact Chung in our website. But we are going to move on to the start of our series, which is exploring different types of internet connectivity that we have available on our islands. I'm really happy to have Edward here for some global broadband, and also Chrissy will be sharing more so the implementation part of that connectivity for her community. I will give it over to you guys. You guys are able to share screen if you want to, or I can do it either way.
I can put up my slides.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
All for you.
Let me load that up. Okay. Let's see. Can you see this screen?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Is it big enough or do I need to put it in slide mode?
If you could put it in slide mode, that'll be really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Hi, everybody. In fact, I see a lot of friends here, Dan and Wayne, and of course, Chrissy and Shar. So today I was asked to give a presentation on what is super wireless and what are we doing in Hawaii as Sun Global Broadband. And we're working very closely with the West Side community as well as some of the neighbor islands. So my best bud here, Chrissy is part of the presentation, but I'll start it off. So Sun Global Broadband was actually started about 10 years ago. And we were started by an initiative, excuse me, with AT&T, NTT, SoftBank, KDDI, and British Telecom. So they sponsored us to build a wireless system that mimics mobile cellular. It's all Wi-Fi, and it was designed for last mile. So we want to thank the carriers, Spectrum, Hawaiian Tel, and the cellular companies, because they provide the backhaul for our networks in the community. So I'll scroll down here. So as we started our journey 10 years ago, we were actually the interface for Japan Wi-Fi for the Tokyo Olympics, for all the travelers coming to Hawaii. So we represented the links with Asia to Hawaii for what I would call roaming over Wi-Fi. And what we were asked to do and develop with Masa-san and Dr. Sachio Senmoto, co-founder of KDDI, as well as the vice chairman of NTT Group, was to build a Wi-Fi network for their Japan tourists coming to Hawaii that's directly linked to Japan Wi-Fi and the Tokyo Olympics. Now, we had something in the middle just before the launch of the Tokyo Olympics called lockdown due to a global pandemic. So we then switched over to try to address the needs for the community. So Dr. Fujio Matsuda, our co-founder, and I then switched it over to deal with community issues, which were, people separated from either work or their support locations to provide telehealth and telemedicine. In fact, Chrissy worked with Christine Higa on one of the first grants for that with Waianae Coast Comprehensive. And then we worked on a second grant with Weinberg Foundation. We also were asked to develop quick connect internet last mile for housing and urban development. So we work with state GIA, with Hawaii Assisted Housing, Mark Development, and indirectly DHHL for different locations. So we've now done about 7 different developments with Mark Development, Hawaii Assisted Housing, and indirectly DHHL. We also created a super Wi-Fi hub, and I'll describe what that is, connecting us to other locations throughout the Pacific, as well as to Las Vegas. So we actually have a link we're in the process of developing directly for travelers from Hawaii who's going to the 9th island, right, for playtime. So we've actually created a sister city relationship using technology. And of course, Lifeline E911 services out for public safety in the west side, okay, especially after the closure of Kaiser West. Agritech, through my board role at Olelo and with Roger McKee, we're doing distance learning. And then more recently, we've been asked by the Department of Defense and Secretary of the Air Force to implement global Wi-Fi networks across Indo-PACOM region. So anyway, these are all the different areas that we're kind of touching. So we are a last mile platform we're not a carrier, so we use existing carrier services, or we actually order up carrier services. So I want to thank you for all the work on wide area network. We're a last mile local area network. We also work with Starlink and Kuiper and Amazon. So what's so novel about what we do? Interesting enough, over 90% of people getting onto the internet superhighway or the World Wide Web, they're onboarded. The on-ramp and off-ramp is actually Wi-Fi. So most of us are connected by Wi-Fi right now, okay, to the web. Now, I would say over 90%. In fact, over 90% of all data on cellular is actually offloaded to Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi actually is the the driving force for onboarding people onto the internet. Okay. So the interesting thing is working with NASA and in my former group at HP Labs, we actually developed a Wi-Fi technology where you can actually connect using Wi-Fi at 5 gigahertz to a antenna over 1.5 miles away. Okay, it's line of sight. But the interesting thing is that you can connect, so we can have a 1 mile bubble. So that's the first slide there. You see those two, one gentleman in a suit. He's from Japan. He's from NTT. He's their engineer for the Tokyo Olympics, and he connected it on his cell phone using Wi-Fi. He's at the Hilton Lagoons, and he connected to our antenna at the Kaimana Beach Hotel near Kapilani Park. Okay, so his comment was he's never seen anyone create an antenna system that could hear his phone from 1.5 miles away. In fact, so the next slide over, if you look at that, we talk about digital equity, but I wanted to kind of clarify. There's two types of digital issues in dealing with last mile. One is digital divide, which means there is I think Dan Smith, who was involved with some of these surveys with us, he made a good comment was, where's the drop point for the actual end user connection? Because you could have a pedestal to a neighborhood, but it might not reach to your house. So how do you get there in the last mile? So most of what we're talking about in policy is carrier connectivity or middle mile, okay, or wide area network. In our case, we're talking about last mile. So this is an example of Nanakuli. In fact, Shar was involved, and Dara Nakafuji and Chrissy when we did the survey. And most fiber is along the coastline. That's by design, and that's mostly the case for most islanders. So there's a digital divide, meaning the drop point for the fiber reaches the edge of the community, but doesn't really go to the community. The slide on the bottom left talks about digital equity, which means if there's cable or other services, you might have extension into the neighborhood, but everyone doesn't have the same level of service. Okay. The dark green is maybe good service. The lighter green is maybe, you use cellular terms, 2 bars, and the brown might be 1 bar or no bar. Okay. And that's a case of digital equity when you have asymmetrical service. So what we developed with NASA, with NSA, and some of the groups at HP Labs and our team, former team from Verifone Labs, we developed a technology that can overlay existing networks so that we could create a bubble over an entire area. Okay. So I think the confusion comes up sometimes when we talk about Wi-Fi. Most people think of indoor Wi-Fi, which is maybe if you get away from an access point 200 or 300 feet, you drop the call. In our case, we actually create a 2-mile bubble. And we can connect these bubbles to actually overlay, whole regions or whole islands. Okay. So our estimate in dealing with the original planning way back was that about $40 or $50 million would overlay everywhere in Hawaii, every island. So our technology is now scheduled to be tested to help Las Vegas. As most of you know, when you go to Las Vegas, they have so many different casinos and they're constantly expanding, including things like having a football team now, a hockey team, and an F1. Most of you may not know that most of Las Vegas is actually connected by Wi-Fi. They said it takes too long to have physical infrastructure and move things around. So all of the Halo, all of the Uber, all those things, moving IoT, Internet of Things, is actually driven by Wi-Fi. They backhaul using licensed frequencies, but they're created hotspots. And now we're looking at basically replacing CBRS with all Sun Global Broadband long-range Wi-Fi for bubbles, or I call it a bubble. people talk about Wi-Fi, they're normally thinking of hotspots. Okay, in our case, it's a bubble. So the areas of highest interest for us is education, public safety, okay, which is on the top right. The bottom left, which is Internet of Things and mobility, and of course, healthcare. So, interesting enough, we worked with Chrissy and Christine Higa to get a grant which actually connected, actually overlaid the entire, is it 3 acres, Chrissy, in YNI? Is that about right? Your campus? We overlaid that. We actually hosted some 5,000 users for their open house. And I think Kaala was doing training on our systems at the Waianae Coast Comprehensive. So Kaala did a fantastic job. Although he didn't do his Elvis thing. We wanted to see the Elvis thing. And then Chrissy recently with our network there, we hosted was it a national or the statewide telemedicine or telehealth group? Okay, so the community were invited.
We've had several events, including a community event when we celebrated our 50 years of service. So in that particular event, gosh, besides community members, just not even something we planned, but we ended up using the connectivity for all of our events. So we had, our movie that played, all of the music, the entertainment. And so I think I wanted to mention that because I know one of the things that people always ask me is, well, great, you have connectivity, but what is the bandwidth like, and how many people does it support? So I think that really gives, I think, everyone a good idea of how it can impact and provide benefit.
So there we had 5,000 plus simultaneous users, and we're running, I think you and I tested at 100 megabits symmetrical service using about 6 antennas. Okay, of course, the carriers provided the backhaul. On the large area on the left, covering the beaches, we were asked to conduct a test from Waianae Coast Comprehensive to put a bubble, okay, pointed down the beach and into Maili. So the idea here was we actually covered 1 mile down the beach from one location using Wi-Fi. And that was primarily to demonstrate 2 things. One was, can we connect with people that are unhoused? Okay. So people on the beaches that are unhoused, there's no facility or structure to tie a cable to it. And they're mobile. The second part was that in the case of pandemic, most of the clinics and healthcare facilities don't allow people into the facility. So they wanted to have an area, and here we pointed at DHHL land, where they can come and we can do healthcare checks, but they're not inside the facility. This was actually the parking lot or adjacent area, okay, for safety. So this was, the long-range test was actually funded by Waianae Coast Comprehensive working with the Weinberg Foundation. By the way, if you're asking how much this all costs, was under 200,000 to light up a 1 mile area. Okay, so the other things, we're working with different groups. Waianae Coast Comprehensive, at one time was OHA, also Hui, Huliao, because it just makes sense for agritech and agriculture and land use to cover large areas using wireless. Okay, as most of you know, physical infrastructure other than cellular is not mobile. In our case, our technology is mobile up to 40 miles per hour. Okay. So there's lots of applications here, and there's a new division actually at Waianae Coast Comprehensive called Elapayo. Okay, and they're into food distribution and agritech. Is that right, Chrissy? Did I pronounce it correctly? Okay. By the way, this is
social services.
Yeah. By the way, this is the fun side of communications, okay? Because we're actually dealing with use cases that serve the community, okay? It's not the backbone or the backhaul, which is mostly regulatory and political issues. Where else can you see our network? Well, we're now growing. We've been at Germain's and Sea Life Park and Roberts, Hawaii. Now we're growing into some 63 parks worldwide with the parent company of Sea Life Park. Okay, we actually cover and support thousands of Japanese tourists to Waikiki, partnered with NTT and also with KDDI and other tourists from other areas. So there's lots of companies using our network already in Waikiki. This is what the Waikiki network looks like. So we actually put up 80 antenna bubbles, and it covers about I guess it spans about 12 to 15 miles. Interesting enough is that our technology co-designed with AT&T and NTT, we can actually integrate and aggregate different backhauls and make it look like it's one network. So one side of Waikiki is, fiber, the other middle part is cable, and the other part is cellular. So we integrate all three systems and make it look like it's one network to give mobility up to 40 miles per hour. Okay. So what's so unique about what we do? We're portable and quick deployable. Of course, Wi-Fi is unlicensed. So unlike cellular, we're actually building networks into about 10 different countries right now. So we can actually put up a network in Japan, in Korea, in Australia, and we don't have to go through a licensed carrier. Okay. It's mobile. I'll give you an example. Sea Life Park, for putting up a cellular network, they were quoted about $1 million, and it would take 2 years for permitting. We put it up for 1/10 the cost, and it took 4 days. Okay, and we're serving thousands of people at their luau and across the whole park. So we covered 5 acres in that deployment. So they're pretty happy. Okay, low cost, public safety and continuous service from indoor to outdoor. We're working with hotels now to actually expand their indoor network to the outdoor network for both their, for both hospitality, concierge services, and public safety. Number 5, Wi-Fi is an international standard. We're using standard Wi-Fi technology that was adapted with special antennas co-designed by HP Labs, my former group, and with NASA. So we are now in the middle of talking to World Bank, as well as some of their clients for international blockchain, which will be hubbed out of Hawaii, hopefully out of Waianae or the West Side. So we're working with Chrissy and Rich Patini and Dan Gomes all on that. So we're going to create an economic center there. And of course, the last part is the buzzword today. What is the buzzword coming out of DC? It's AI, right? So they're spending $500 billion for a telemedicine, telehealth center, okay, supercomputer in Dallas. It's Masa Son, Sam Altman, and Larry Ellison, who owns Lanai. And the interesting thing is they need mobile real-time IoT, okay? And Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi is the gateway to the internet. Wi-Fi is an ideal way to collect data and feed it to the supercomputer, right? Like any computer system, garbage in, garbage out, right? You have to have current information and you have to have it live. So that's where we're actually focused right now, is we're building the front page for the AI supercomputers. Okay, so Chrissy, I'm going to let you share about this slide because our partnership, really what we wanted to do, especially with our co-founder, Dr. Fujio Matsuda, and other peoples on our board, such as Dr. Miyataki, what we really wanted to do was serve the Hawaiian community, even though we're a global platform. So Chrissy, can you share a little bit here about the socioeconomic and health benefits?
Sure. So mahalo, Ed. That was really good. Thank you for explaining in a way that I think was easy for our audience, and if folks that may not know the real techie kind of terminology. I think that was really great and highlighting why we were so fortunate, or why I feel so fortunate that we have the infrastructure set up. And so for those, I think I'm thinking that most of you know our community, but in terms of the patients that we serve, just to give you an idea of why this is, the whole making sure that my community is able to access the internet, access opportunities that AI is bringing, and not being further left behind in this area is 71% of our patients live at or below the poverty level. Over 60% of our patients are Medicaid or using SNAP. And so just thinking about those, and then if you think about chronic diseases in terms of diabetes prevalence, we're We're double in terms of obesity prevalence compared to the state of Hawaii. And then in terms of diabetes, we're higher than Honolulu County. So that kind of gives you the perspective. And then we serve over close to half of our patients are of Native Hawaiian descent. So if you think about all those kinds of socioeconomic challenges, and then also you put in this historical systemic racism that has come from our history of our monarchy being overthrown, and then the suppression of just the whole Native Hawaiian culture, you can see that there's the reasons that are impacting this digital divide, and really why all of us, regardless of what industry you're in, right? At the end of the day, your consumer, that is your community. For me, that means it's my family, my friends, the people I care about, so even beyond our patients. And so what I know is that this way to connect is easy because we did it. I did it for our Kupuna program. We got it set up in a day. I was able to train 70 Kupuna who wouldn't otherwise have known how to connect. And for me, my priority is, of course, improving access to care. And this is what has allowed our patients to be able to connect to care. And I think the real fundamental part is looking at those hidden barriers, right? So listen, I hear the conversation about using terminology like, well, our communities have, there's the potential to connect. The potential to connect and the ability to connect are two totally different things. The affordability factor is huge. There are hidden barriers, and I'm going to insert this because I don't know how many people know. But if you think about the hidden barriers when it comes to cellular, right? Because I hear folks say, well, why, there's Mint that's $15 a month, or there's this for, what seems economical for a unlimited cell plan or a limited cell plan. But with all of those are typically come with some kind of deprioritization or throttling. The other thing is read the fine print. It's with cellular carriers like T-Mobile, it's not, you have to go with 4 lines to get the free, to get the special pricing. And then you have to meet a credit score. And then you have to be able to do auto payment after 2 regular billing cycles. If you think about the demographics or the community that I just described, do you think they can, meet any of those qualifications? That's not the case. And so the solution that we're currently using, so it's not a concept. We have it already set up in what Ed has described. And I think he failed to mention that we also actually expanded to Halemakana o Maili, which is an affordable housing complex. And we serve many of those patients, and we have statistics on those that connect via telehealth, but aren't unable to connect via televideo, either because they don't have a phone that has a camera, or their connectivity can't support it, right? So it's either being throttled or deprioritized. And then we actually have a few patients that just can't afford internet, so they're having to just call on their telephone. And then we also expanded that connectivity to a pilot residential home connected to agriculture land. So if we go back to what Ed was talking about, really, I think the fun part too is looking at how we can leverage technology to address really those other kinds of social determinants of health. So things like food insecurity, right? And for Native Hawaiians and for the state of Hawaii, not even if you're not a Native Hawaiian, food sustainability and food sovereignty is really what I like. What Jill Takuda says, our congresswoman, it's a matter of national security, right? If things are cut off from coming in, 90% of our imports for food come in. If that gets cut off, what do we do? So we need to start thinking about how we can get back to a place where we're smart farming, where we're using ag tech to benefit our communities, and also from a cultural standpoint. And how do we do that? And knowing though that we need to look at innovative ways, because hey, my grandparents are farmers. It's not an easy job. There's no vacation, and I'm trying to tell you right now, the folks, our current generation, they're not looking to do that, but they are looking towards technology to make things efficient, make things in a way that we can farm, 1 acre of land using smart farm technology and have, reap 60 acres worth of produce. And so, that's what we're looking at. So I'm, really, our goal is to light up our whole community, not only for the obvious, right, to get our community connected for telehealth, to impact job opportunities, economic growth, but also if you think about it, we're well positioned. Waianae is well positioned to be a replicable model for other communities in our state, right? We're geographically, we're cut off. We're one road in, one road out. So we even, we didn't emphasize disaster preparedness, but I like to emphasize that as well. So we need redundant, reliable connectivity, communications. And so, if we can get this set up and have other communities look at it, it's scalable. So, if we're looking at somewhere in Waimanalo, it's scalable to something smaller. We can look at our neighbor islands. So I really think that this is, something that I think people, get more well-versed in, understand what kinds of connectivity are available. Because yeah, we need the backhaul, but we need to really look at how do we make sure the people at the other end, that last mile, are truly getting connected. Not that there's the potential, because that does not address or service those in all areas, including our unsheltered. So I'm going to stop there because I know we have a hard stop at 5:58, but I do want to open it up if there are any questions, maybe if I left out anything that people are interested in hearing more about.
Hey, Chrissy, I'm going to add something, and I'm going to show another slide because I think it's really important. When we talk about, wide area network, okay, that's one part of resilience, but the local area network is another part of resilience. In other words, I've heard it said that, cable in the ground is a gold standard, and it could be from a, maybe natural disaster perspective. But if it's ever disrupted, it takes permitting and a lot of construction to restore it. So when we talk about the need for redundant, middle and last mile, our name always comes up because we can set it up in 2 days. In fact, for Maui, we set up a Wi-Fi network with Starlink in 1 day. Okay, so the idea is it's not just resilience, but redundancy when you build hybrid networks. If you think of the wide area network, what comes to mind, and it made this a local example, is if we build rail without the right, rail stops, okay, then traffic is diminished. So you have to have a way to get an on-ramp and an off-ramp, and that's what really mobile wireless does. Okay. Some other use cases outside of Waianae. The city was asking us to put a 1 mile Wi-Fi network from the lifeguard stations out to the beach to help with the 2.5 million lives saved at the beaches every year. City facilities, when we talked to the mayor and the managing director in Honolulu, was asking about, can we put up wireless systems that can help with minimizing vandalism through one of our partners that has a system that can hear, smell, and see, okay, vandalism. Of course, we have partners. We designed the electronic bus sign that's being used in Hawaii right now, in the city of county of Honolulu, with Roger Morton and so forth. We also brought in the billing system, who was one of our partners when we're the founders of Verifone. And then we're also doing the digital signage for the bus. That's all going to be tied together by Wi-Fi. If you think of Wi-Fi, my laptop does not have a SIM card, okay? But it has built-in Wi-Fi. My wife's washer, dryer, and refrigerator all Wi-Fi. In fact, I laugh because the washer talks to the dryer, talks to the refrigerator, and then it talks to my wife. So the machine to machine is the next generation of AI. Okay, so we had a gathering with the mayor, Mike Formby, Amy Asobe, to go over public safety, food distribution, telehealth, telemedicine, spiritual grounding, all at one eye coast comprehensive. And this was the team that was formed to try to now create the bubble on the west side and take it across the state. Okay, and Chrissy's a spearhead for that. So this is we have the right person leading the charge here. I wanted to just show some of the community partners. So Shar, actually Lay Foundation is YNI. So I have to update that slide. But Olelo, YNI Economic Development Council, the Kapolei Economic Development Council. I don't know if Kieran's online here, but she's been a big support along with the Kapolei Chamber of Commerce, okay? The Moku Navigators. And these are all the different people that are now endorsing our technology because it's actually running. It's running as a bubble in Waikiki to Ala Moana, is running as a bubble in Waianae and Maili. There's 7 different developments we've done with Mark Development, Hawaii Assisted Housing, and now there's others coming up. We're working with other developers. Here's the bus sign. You guys might have seen this around Hawaii. This is a Wi-Fi repeater, okay? So this is now being sold in 14 states. It was co-developed by Carl Chang, who was a CTO for Verifone in our group, okay? But this is a solar-powered electronic bus sign, and we're trying to also implement this for rail. This is the tourist link between Asia and Japan to Hawaii, and we're the hub. Okay.
I think I'm gonna. Sorry, Ed. I do. It's we do want to make sure that we leave some time to do ending. But if anyone would like more information, please get in contact with me or with Ed. I think all of our contact information is everywhere. And so mahalo again, Ed, for a really great presentation, and for our audience, mahalo for listening. And I'm hoping that we were able to provide some, useful, new kind of, technology insight. And so, Shola, I'm going to turn it over to you. Sorry, we passed our hard stop there.
Sorry about that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Ed, for sharing. That was really helpful and really insightful. I hope, people really take this time as an opportunity to learn how they can access the internet for their communities, with all of our different demographics and different geographies that we have on our islands. But just to kind of wrap everything up, next week is going to be our next Broadband Hui meeting. We will be meeting on the 19th of March. We will be continuing our series on learning about different ways and opportunities that we can operate the internet. And we will also be hearing from a grad student who is doing his thesis, and he will be kind of sharing about his work on digital equity and a lot of data collection that he has. And he's been wanting to do to kind of understand the effects of all of these programs we have coming together and how it affects our communities. So we'll have a little bit of some information sharing on that. But just to wrap everything up, mahalo everyone for joining us today on the 224th convening of the Broadband Hui. We mahalo everyone and their time to spend to learn and educate yourselves to better your community. We mahalo you. We will see you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Not next week.
All right.
All right.
Ahuli ho.
Mahalo, everybody.